For a beautiful moment, it's just the two of us, squeezing each other with all our might because, despite all our fears, we actually can. We're here, together again. I'm curled all around her, tentacles twisting around every inch of her body as I hold her close, Roscoe nestled between my physical form and hers. Something stirs inside her and her soul pulls for mana, but the Watcher cannot reach her here. Surrounded by my soul, she is cut off. I offer her myself instead, releasing my own mana around her, and the grand recesses of her being gladly pull me in. Greedy for power as she is, she sucks up more and more of me, but I hardly mind. Dancing around the inside of her spirit, I press myself lovingly along the impossibly complex pathways within, a nuzzle here, a slight squeeze there. I get to cuddle her from inside and out. There's love for me in here, and I get to bask in it directly, warming me from all sides. Penelope immediately quirks a confused eyebrow, startled by new and confusing sensations. Is this you? She whispers. MMHRM, I confirm, my face nuzzled too far into her shoulder to articulate further. It's so different, she murmurs. So very different. Pleasant, not dangerous. Easier. Channeling isn't like this. Watcher mana doesn't like to be channeled, I mutter, slightly annoyed to be talking about it rather than just basking in it. I like it. As long as it's you. It's odd, Penelope remarks. But good. Like being hugged from the inside. I am hugging from the inside, I mumble. Snuggling up. You're my soul blankie. She chuckles, running her hand over my barely fuzzy scalp. I bet I could hold a lot more of your mana in me than Watcher mana, if you aren't fighting me. More maximum power. I sigh, giving up on the hope for more silent cuddles. That sounds nice. Just don't cause a mana annihilation inside your soul. That'd be bad, Prali. Ah, yes, I suppose that's a downside, she agrees, tracing a finger around the eye on my temple. When did you grow this? Dunno, I grumble. I kind of lost track of time. A few months ago, I think? There's one on my thigh, too. And my arm tentacle. Uck. Can you get rid of it all? Certainly, she agrees. Though if that means you aren't growing these things on purpose, well, that's concerning. We should focus effort into looking into why that's happening first. I grunt in agreement. I guess that sounds like a good idea. What about your eyes? I ask, changing the subject. I can't imagine they're anything but intentional. Do you like them? Penelope preens. Yellow is probably my least favorite color, I answer honestly. Oops, disappointment fills her immediately. But, you know, it's never been important to me how you look, I quickly remind her, scooping her up into a tentacular princess carry. And your soul has gotten much prettier since I last saw you. The mask is starting to come off. If, that's why the eyes are like they are, please keep them. Penelope's eyebrows raise, a smile returning to her lips. Watcher's eyes, Vita, was that a social skill you just used? She taunts. Prison really has changed you. I wince. Well, I guess so, I admit. I didn't have much to do other than watch people and massage my ocean. It's really good to be back. Penelope leans into me, smirking slightly. It's so surreal, being here with her. She's different, but not as much as I'd feared. I hate that the vast majority of the time she's been my girlfriend, I haven't even been able to talk to her. Yet still. Go ahead and brag, I tell her. I know you want to. Oh, well, she hums. If you insist. She languidly extracts herself from my arms, taking a dramatic pause for effect as a grin splits her face, revealing an impressive pair of fangs. I fucking did it, she hisses gleefully. I stole you from the highest security prison on the goddamn island and they won't have the slightest shred of evidence I was involved. This could not have gone more perfectly. Lynn awkwardly clears her throat. Sorry, Lady Vesuvius, you two are like super incredibly cute and all, but I gotta protest that one. One thing kind of went very wrong. Penelope sighs, extremely put out by having her monologue interrupted, but she waves Lynn to continue. Go on then, what's the bad news, she grumbles. Well, Vita kinda sort of maybe let ours out of jail, too, Lynn continues quickly. She what? Penelope shrieks. Oh yeah, that guy, I nod agreeably. He's apparently kind of my dad, or something. He's what? And a Splice was my mom, I guess? You know, before I was an orphan and eventually got a better mum. Or, Lin coos. Where is ours now? Penelope demands. No idea, I shrug. He killed himself and flew away. Shit, she hisses. Would you be able to recognize him if you see him again? Oh, totally, I nod. Dude's soul is real freaky. Very distinctive, he's like a patchwork quilt sewn entirely out of fucked up. I also destroyed the little thingy he put in my soul that made me unable to remember him. Of course. Well. Good, I suppose, Penelope grumbles. And how long is your sensory range now? No idea, I answer. Miles, at least. I think it improved even more after I started eating metal. Watcher's eyes, I forgot what it was like being around you, Penelope laments, pinching the bridge of her nose. Well, I'll need you to vet everyone important, then. And I suppose I'll just need to take it on good faith that you aren't compromised. Skyhope is probably fine, I say. If I were ours, the absolute last place I'd want to go is anywhere near the Inquisition. He was captured for like 15 years. I'd want dozens of countermeasures before getting close to anywhere with Templars again. And yet, you're here, Penelope points out sardonically. Well, yeah, I say. You and my family are here. She chuckles, shaking her head. I missed you so damn much, Vita, she says. Now give me a moment, I'll need a while to cast this teleportation spell to get us back. Then we'll take our leave, I think, Netta says. Unless you need anything, Vita? No, I'm good, I confirm, grinning and walking over to give both Hunter Revenants a hug. Thanks so much for getting me out of there, you two. It was truly our pleasure, Matteo hisses, curling around me and giving me a light squeeze back. Is it cool if I split to go check in on the family? Give him the good news? Lynn asks. Of course, Penelope nods. Just do not be seen. Yes ma'am, Lynn answers with a mock salute, then dashes away towards Skyhope. Huh, I mutter. I figured Lynn would never even think about traveling the forest alone. I've given your mother extensive modifications, Penelope answers, shrugging. She's effectively immune to poison and disease, has a bone structure strong enough to stop nearly any attack, and can regenerate a limb in under a 10-day if she eats enough. Add that to being naturally fast enough to escape any threat, and, well, she's rather bolder now. Huh, I say. Neat. I assume you've done all that to yourself, too? She smirks. Plus a bit more, yes. Now if you'd kindly direct me a bit more mana, I should be able to safely consume it all for this teleportation spell. Oh yeah, I nod. Sure. Tell me when to stop. About 15 minutes later, Penelope grabs my hand and I'm suddenly somewhere else. I stagger, overwhelmed by such an oppressive silence. There are 6 people here, counting myself. Then, well over what must be a mile away, I feel souls on my periphery. But in between? Hardly anything but worms and dirt. The intense quiet that's normally below me is now everywhere. Above, below, around. It's so lifeless. We're very far underground, I whisper, because for some reason it just feels right to be quiet. Penelope confirms happily. Welcome to my humble abode. And welcome home to you, Lady Vesuvius, a disturbingly familiar voice coos. Penelope goes white as a sheet, a sudden panic ringing in her soul as a short woman who looks exactly like me walks into the room. Well, to be more accurate, she looks exactly like I remember looking 2 years ago, with a mere 2 eyes, raven black hair down to her shoulders, and a solid 2 inches under me in height. Nice, I grew a little, suffice to say, I am caught by surprise on this one, partly because her soul is totally different from mine but mostly because she's dressed like one of the fucking pole dancers at Sky's casino. I begin, watching Penelope go beet red beside me. What is this? A mistake, Penelope hisses. I am Nugas. The me clone responds happily. You must be Vita. It is so wonderful to finally meet you. Wow, I manage. You got me, Penelope. I have no idea whether to be disgusted, creeped out, or flattered. I would be so very pleased if you chose to be flattered, Lady Vita. Nugas beams. Did you seriously make a living fuckle of me? I ask, bewildered. I knew you had it bad, but again, wow. She's not a fucktall. Penelope snaps. I didn't fall that far. I just. In a moment of weakness, You turned someone into a sexy clone of me in a moment of weakness? Months of weakness, then, Penelope hisses, brimming with shame. I lost hope. I was angry. So I poured my research into our dedicated animancy test subject. Something poetic, desperate, and cruel. I don't think you've been cruel, Lady Vesuvius, my copy reassures her. Of course not, Penelope grumbles back. You don't think anything I didn't make you to think. For the first time, the ghost of my face frowns. Well, perhaps those words were cruel, Nugas responds. Penelope looks away, flinching like she'd been slapped. What the fuck is going on? Can we back up for a moment? I ask. Penelope, when you say our dedicated animancy test subject, do you mean? Yes, Penelope grunts. This used to be the man Sky assigned to guard your family. The one that let Angeline die. I raise my eyebrows at her, though the eye on my temple twists to glare at Nugas. This is him? He. Well, no, she feels completely different. Not the least because she strongly considers herself a she. The thug didn't. It's completely unrecognizable as the source soul in so many ways. I'm leaning towards being disgusted now, I admit. It was meant to be a punishment for him, Penelope mumbles miserably. I blink at her. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, Penelope insists. I'm explaining. It was a punishment for him, and it was a good one. The way he screamed when he realized what I was doing to him, Vita. Oh, it was so much more than any physical pain I could have given him. It was beautiful. And that's the problem. I was too caught up in how fucked everything had become at the time to realize it, but in retrospect it couldn't have been more obvious that I was just indulging my absolute worst tendencies. I didn't just take the mask off, I shattered it and shat on the pieces. This is nothing but a reminder of what I am at my worst, of what I can't ever let myself do again. So I would prefer if we just forget about her and move on. I'm sure your revenants have missed you. Penelope, if you hate this person so much, why don't you just change them back? I ask. If I may be permitted to answer that, please. Nugas asks demurely. Penelope just looks away, which I assume she interprets as permission to continue. I remember the man I was made from, Nugas tells me. I remember him sobbing as my body shrunk and softened. I remember screaming as she cut him out of me, flaying his joy and hate until they were tender enough to mold. Lady Vesuvius killed him so that I could grow from his corpse. I do not wish to die the same way. I implore you, Lady Vita, to not consider us the same. He was a foul, selfish, and evil man. He hated himself, and I hate him even more than that. I am not him. We are not the same. I regard her, surprised by the conviction in her words, the desperate need to make me understand. And I suppose I do. This isn't the man that let Angeline die. I could never have recognized her soul as such. Which just makes this entire situation even freakier, really. I expected Penelope to figure out a lot of animancy, but not this much. Okay, I acknowledge. I guess. It's nice to meet you, Nugas. She beams, and I step past her, thinking. My own revenants never freaked me out like this. Is it just because they're mine? Can I get you anything for you and your guest, Lady Vesuvius? Nugas asks. No, Nugas, Penelope sighs, every word out of my copy's mouth sending fresh sparks of embarrassment through her. Thank you. Of course, Lady Vesuvius. Nugas bows slightly, her pure blue eyes gleaming. Penelope catches up with me, face carefully blank as she tries to master her emotions. Sorry about that, Penelope mumbles. I was so excited about your return and so busy with my work I never got around to changing her face. Oh, that's fine, I dismiss. She likes it more than I ever did. She can keep it. Penelope grunts, and I pick up a general dissatisfaction with that answer which links to her embarrassment. You didn't want me to know, did you? I press. Why would I want anyone to know? Penelope counters. She's convenient to have around, I won't deny that. But she's still a mistake. I nod slowly. At what point did you start to regret it? I ask. Penelope glowers at me, so I lean over and give her a side hug. She sighs. When I made her love me, she answers quietly. That moment when I took her head and made it want nothing more than what was best for me. She didn't dread my work anymore. She looked forward to it. And that changed everything. I lost interest immediately. That's what made me realize every justification I've given myself, every logical reason to do what I've done. It was all bullshit. I was only really in it for the torture. I had created an entire fucking person for no reason beyond raw sadism. I'm worse than my own parents. I squeeze her shoulder. Well, I'm really glad your parents made you, I reassure her. So maybe someone will be happy you made nougats someday. Penelope smirks. But not you, and not today? Oh, fuck no, I confirm. She's freaky as shit. Penelope cackles, finally shrugging off most of her foul mood. I've missed your bluntness, she sighs. But yes, that's nougats. I'm sorry that the first person you meet at my place had to be her rather than your daughter. Hey, that's okay. It's been 2 years, I can wait 5 minutes to let you air your dirty laundry. Penelope flinches. She is a person, Vita, she says softly. Try not to forget that, and try not to let me forget again neither. I'm trying to learn to embrace who I am, but, well, there's accepting my flaws and then there's nougats. Really, Penelope, it's fine, I reassure her. She's freaky but I do that kind of thing all the time. I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. Excuse me, did I hear something about dirty laundry? Nougats asks, poking her head into the hallway. Is there something I should clean? You do look rather ripe, Lady Vita. No, nougats, I was calling you Penelope's dirty laundry, I clarify. Oh, nougats purrs, running a hand lightly over the top of one of her breasts. Well, I suppose I wouldn't mind. Watcher's eyes, stop that. Penelope snaps, blushing furiously. Nougats just cackles and re-enters the room she popped out of. She's just going to be even more incorrigible now that you're here, isn't she? Penelope groans. It's so weird seeing myself nearly naked all the time, I agree. You did great work on her eyes, though. Thanks, I suppose, Penelope grunts. We continue on, wordlessly agreeing to keep silent in order to both drop the subject and to surprise the first revenant we see. Vitamin, Margaret, and Theodora are all here, but this place is way too fucking big for the 5 people it apparently normally houses. It feels like needless opulence, but I guess that's the kind of house Penelope is used to. It's not like Penelope is showing it off to anyone, this deep underground. So maybe it's just what her context for a home is. Eventually, we walk all the way to the room where I sense Vitamin. She's sitting down, facing away from the door in a meditative stance. Energy flows through the strands of anima running within her tiny child body, pulsing and concentrating and dancing about with clear intent. It's fascinating to watch. What's it for, I wonder? Normally, the amount of power in each soul strand is pretty much equal, but Vitamin is removing energy from some parts of her body to empower others, then moving it back, then moving it somewhere else. She's training to optimize her strength wherever it happens to be needed, probably. Either way, I break her focus quite thoroughly when I lean down and give her a big hug from behind. Guess who? I ask. Hey nougats, she answers, turning her head towards me. What's you Her sentence transitions directly into excited screaming, quickly twisting all the way around so she can squeeze me back. I lift her up into the air, grinning as she squeals. Mom. Mom, is it really you? You're back? You're back. Margaret. It's really me. I confirm, rustling her hair. Has Penelope been treating you well? Oh yeah, I mean, totally. Vitamin confirms. Best future mom ever. It sucks that we're pretty much trapped underground again, but I'm glad there's enough space to run around and practice martial arts and stuff. Keeps things from getting too boring. Plus, she feeds us. Margaret, come here. What? Margaret shouts from somewhere above us. Her voice is very different from what I remember. I don't want to go down the stairs right now, Vitamin. You come up here. This is worth it. Vitamin shouts back. Come here. An exasperated groan echoes down from the floor above, and soon after follows an ominous, resounding clack click clack, clack click clack as she descends down the stairs. Gem, Margaret hums tonelessly. Don't fall, don't fall. Woo! I did it. I sit down and move Vitamin to my lap as the continued cracks of something sharp and dangerous ringing against stone get ever closer. Soon after, a monster of nightmares stalks around the corner and fills the room with its presence. A mortifying construct made entirely of pitch-black bone, a Vrithitso skull stares at me with 4 hollow eyes and a statuesque grin. Attached to it is a vaguely humanoid torso, with bony arms and a structure that seems to be a ribcage until it starts to twist and undulate like rows of black ivory tentacles. In place of human legs, 6 blade-tipped limbs grow from the thick, curved spine, clattering along the ground as it walks. A whip-like tail of anima-joined bone fragments finishes the aesthetic, tipped with a wicked 2-edged blade. Though this creature could very easily be the skeleton of a Vrithitso as is, evidence exists of custom design and alterations. Some bones are carved into shapes or broken into pieces that clearly weren't part of whatever unfortunate creature died to make this body. When Margaret the undead monstrosity speaks, her ribcage twists threads of mana to form the chinemancy she requires. A skeleton has no lungs, after all. Hey, Nugas, she greets. That's a bold fucking haircut. Odd outfit, too. Where'd you get? Margaret stops. I grin at her, lifting Vitamin onto my shoulders as I stand up. Wow, I say appreciatively. You went and made yourself gorgeous while I was gone, huh Margaret? Vita. She squeaks back, rushing in for a hug. She's close to 2 feet taller than me, so I end up getting a face full of ribcage. It wraps lovingly around my head and squeezes, which is extra cute. Oh, watch his eyes. You made it. She blubbers. You're okay. You're okay, you're okay. I'm okay, I confirm. Now you've got to tell me the story of how you became a cool skeleton monster. Oh, it's your favorite kind of story, Penelope agrees. Full of blasphemy? I prompt. She smirks. Absolutely brimming. Well, basically, Margaret explains, while Penelope was really into that cognomancy stuff and Theodora enjoys helping her research biomancy, I figured I'd do what you do and learn a bunch of necromancy. The first question I asked related back to our research about what constitutes a corpse. I wanted to find the lower limit of what the Mistwatcher wouldn't grab a soul out of. And let me guess, I cut in. Skeletons? Skeletons. Margaret chirps happily, her massive, bladed legs tapping happily on the floor. Or specifically, skeleton. Singular. Every single bone in a contiguous body has to be from the same source creature, with like maybe a bit of wiggle room here and there, or Old Misty seems to take offense. But, they don't have to be the same configuration, or even the same shape as they had in life. Huh, I acknowledge as Margaret happily lifts me up onto her back. Well, onto the horizontal part of her spine, really, since she's just bones. It's not the most comfortable sitting position, but it's not that bad either. Being a weird scorpion person skeleton makes Margaret very big, and there's plenty to grab onto. With Vitamin still on my shoulders, we form quite the power team. The real trick was figuring out how to get skeletons to work at all, Margaret continues. Because without muscles and tendons and stuff, bones aren't actually connected to each other. And souls need a contiguous form to inhabit. It took a bit of tweaking, but I ended up isolating and modifying the information contained in your shard to mesh better with exclusively skeletal systems. My body will break apart if any bones get more than about a quarter inch away from their connected partners, but I've beefed my threads up with enough tensile strength that smashing the bones themselves is more likely to be an issue. Sounds like you made some great progress, then, I acknowledge. The results speak for themselves, really. Yeah. Margaret beams, prehensile ribs wiggling with satisfaction. It's just really hard to go downstairs because I'm so front heavy, haha. The tail helps a lot. But anyway, necromancy is super interesting. It's honestly less about dead soul manipulation and more about manipulating anima for specific functions. Like the way your shards act as a form of artificial anima brain to replace our physical one. Wait, my shards do that? Yep. Margaret confirms. Among a bunch of other things. I suspect naturally occurring revenants are the result of some kind of soul mutation that gives people an inherent anima brain. But I'm not sure. All I know is that the vast majority of souls won't form natural revenants, only dregs after being smashed. If you ever stumble on a natural revenant, try to capture it for me, would you? Sure, I guess, I acknowledge. Oh, that reminds me, though. Penelope. I've got to show you the animavorosozoid that was stuck with the prisoners. She's cute, and more importantly she's formally dead. The slime tried to eat her and failed to digest, so now she's the slime. Oh? Penelope hums. Well, that's certainly interesting. You should take me back to see her when we finish saying hello to everyone. I nod. Speaking of, mind taking us to Theodora, Margaret? I ask. Oh, not at all. Away we go. Skittering along the ground, we race upstairs, passing by rooms far too quickly for me to see what's inside. Not that I really care, I'm just here for the people. Theodora. Margaret calls out. Theodora, come here, come here. What? Theodora snaps back, her voice ringing out from behind a closed door. I'm busy. You're gonna want to come see this. Margaret insists, stopping outside the room. A resounding groan rings from within, and a frighteningly desiccated Theodora emerges from within, looking incredibly exhausted for a woman who's literally incapable of sleep. Her dry skin is stretched tightly over her bones, the muscles and fat between having shriveled away to nearly nothing. What is it, Margaret? She grumbles. Hello, vitamin. Hello, new. She blinks at me, and the contradictory shitstorm I expected from her emotions never comes. Instead, it's all united, surprise, joy, relief. Her shard no longer wars with her. She's become fully mine in my absence. I grin, despite the nagging worry that this means I'll break my promise to free her. Hey, Theodora, I greet her. Long time no see. She grins back, and it's equally glorious and painful to see. Vita. She breathes. Vita, you made it. Welcome, welcome. She actually extends her arms up for a hug, so I hop down and give it to her. She shudders, actually shudders with relief as she squeezes me for a few seconds before finally letting go. It feels like she's confirming something she's been afraid was false for ages. You okay, Theodora? I ask hesitantly. Do I feel okay? She asks me back. I frown a little. I mean, yeah, I admit. You seem to be doing well. Just not in the way I expected. She shrugs. It wasn't worth fighting you anymore, Vita, she says. It was too much work to make myself miserable for so little gain. So, I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad to be glad. I glance at Penelope, who sighs and shakes her head. Animancy, she acknowledges blandly. You and I are up shit creek without a boat. Yeah, I guess so, I agree quietly. Well, good to see you, Theodora. What have you been up to these past 2 years? I've mostly been sitting in a small padded room. Theodora steps back towards the room, waving me in excitedly. I'll show you. The room is oddly humid and warm, and I quickly realize that's because it's full of shelves upon shelves of pulsating, slightly fuzzy lumps of flesh. The lumps have tiny, beady eyes, hairless tails, and twitching mouths, and such underdeveloped limbs that they can't possibly move. What is all this? I ask. Immortality research, of course, Theodora says. These were once rats, but I extensively modified them with Penelope's guidance to my specifications. I'm confident in claiming Theodora is the second best biomancer on Vulca, now, Penelope confirms. She's a quick learner. Basically, I'm answering the question of why does the Watcher put a soul in a body when it does? And by extension, how can we trick it into not insuling a body until after it has developed? If we answer these two questions, we can start making backup bodies for people, and the biomancy half of our immortality method will be solved. So? I prompt. How close are you? She crosses her arms, smirking triumphantly. Hey, she probably picked that habit up from Penelope. It's done, Theodora declares. Check the soul count in the room. I don't bother to glance around, since I'm already well aware. Literally all of the bodies in the room have a soul in them, I announce blandly, not quite sure what she's getting at. Theodora shoots a smug look at Penelope. Told you. It works. Look deeper, Vita, Penelope insists, not to be outdone by whatever contest this is. So I do, glowering at the souls in the room. Are they fake, or something? The idea of fake souls pisses me off, but I reach out and poke one to confirm it and they certainly feel real. So then what is? Wait a moment. The souls are bigger than they should be for rats, much bigger. And there's something inside each soul. Something physical. The trick isn't the number of souls, I realize. It's the number of bodies. All of these rat things are pregnant. But it's difficult to tell without looking for it because the rat soul encompasses the kid's body. Exactly. Theodora agrees, clapping happily. There are two things I've determined. 1. The watcher doesn't notice that there's a soul-ready body until some time after it develops a complex enough brain for consciousness. Sentience is the first requirement for a soul vessel, not in the sense that the vessel has to be intelligent but just that it has to feel and experience things. I'm not yet sure how the Mistwatcher detects sentience. Penelope suspects it's some kind of biomancy. I have my doubts, but in any case it does. Then, a pseudo-random amount of time after a baby is developed enough for at least minimally simplistic thought, the Watcher notices and gifts it a soul. But only, of course, if the Watcher thinks it doesn't currently have one. So with a large enough body, a specifically positioned womb, and a large enough soul, you can put up a screen that makes it harder to see the one body inside the other, I conclude. Nice. It's very useful information, Penelope agrees, but it's not actionable. Humans are substantially larger than rats. There's no way we can make some kind of living human incubator creature with our current resources and knowledge. And the necessary soul size would be prohibitively large for an adult body. Bringing people back to life by dropping them out of giant birthing sacks would also be terrifying and gross, Theodora agrees. Not impossible, but, it might cause a bit of a bad public image for our immortality venture. Still, though, progress. Progress, I agree. I'm mostly just happy to see you again. I'm glad you seem to be doing well, circumstances considered. And we're glad you're back, Mum. Vitamin chimes in. Unfortunately, we will need to cut this reunion fairly short, Penelope says. Apparently ours is alive and got released along with Vita, so I really need her to check and make sure he's not somewhere in the city. Oh, holy shit, Theodora swears. Really? Ours is alive? That's terrifying. He's not gonna come after us, is he? Margaret asks. Nah, I dismiss. I think he kind of likes me. I'm his weird estranged experimental daughter, or something. I have no idea if that's better or worse, Theodora admits. It's not important right now, Penelope dismisses. What's important is somehow getting Vita into the city without everyone with a danger sense recognizing her immediately. Do we have any ideas? I've got nothing, Margaret admits. Haven't done any research on how danger senses work. If you know nothing, I'm certainly not going to, Theodora grunts. I'm small and I can punch things. Vitamin adds helpfully. Then we have a problem, Penelope grumbles. I can't in good conscience not take Vita to Skyhope, but I certainly can't be seen with someone that matches even part of an escaped convict's description either. Well, why not just have both of you go in disguise? Vitamin asks. Penelope blinks. Right, that would make sense. Thank you, Vitamin. I suppose. We'll go ask Nugas for some appropriate outfits. One visit to my doppelganger later, who was just absolutely tickled to be able to help. Penelope and I are dressed in ominous black overcoats and slightly see-through blindfolds. The outfit is strapped with a ton of not-so-hidden knives. Basically, we look like some horrifying mixture between cultist and assassin, which is kinda ominous and obvious as fuck. Look at how lovely you two are when you match. Nugas chirps happily. Oh, you're regular queens of death. Don't these disguises seem rather, I dunno, distinctive and obvious? I ask. I thought we were trying to avoid attention. I thought so too at first, Nugas agrees, tilting her head. But then I realized you don't want or need a disguise to hide from common citizens. You're looking to fool people that have danger senses and recognize the distinctive terror of the blue girl. We want to give them something new to latch onto, not a mystery to try and puzzle out. That's quite astute, Nugas, Penelope agrees. These outfits might not strike a perfect balance there, and having new rumors running around at all is somewhat of a problem, but it's unavoidable in this case. This should do fine. Unless Penelope has to draw a knife on someone, I joke. You still don't have any idea how to fight, do you? She chuckles. Well, not really. I'll certainly look like an amateur with a knife. But I'm prepared for an undercover altercation. Well, hopefully it won't come to that, Nugas says. You both look delightfully intimidating, after all. And Penelope can just spoof a different talent by casting with her internal tentacles. Wait, her what? One explanation about custom internal organs later. Penelope is so fucking cool. We teleport to an old warehouse that Penelope functionally but not legally owns. Once again, I'm slightly stunned by the sudden appearance of tens of thousands of souls in my sensory range all at once, but I rally as quickly as I can and scan for any particularly weird ones. Nothing really noteworthy, I report. Can you feel the outer walls from here? Penelope asks. Yep, there are a handful of people walking up at a height that can't be anything but the walls. Yeah. It's about, I dunno, a quarter of my total sensory range in that direction. I feel the tip of the forest too. Holy shit, Penelope breathes. That's nearly 5 miles from here. Well, cool. I grin. Then we've just got to walk. What, like 3 or 4 miles in the opposite direction for me to feel the other side of the city? I think we might have to do a small loop, but yes, Penelope agrees. This shouldn't take much time at all. Let's go, then. Stick to avoiding everyone we can. You got it. I confirm. Geez, it's like scouting for the hunters again. We remove ourselves from the warehouse, and I quickly start navigating us through the streets of Skyhope. It's weird now. There's a ton of wood everywhere, of all things, and nearly every major street has been completely rebuilt after the sewers collapsed. Not to mention, whenever we cross a road that's long and straight enough, we can stare all the way down into the center of Skyhope Crater and see the massive, gaping hole that was once the center city. It hardly feels familiar at all. Still, it's not too difficult a task to steer us along, walking in a wide circle as I keep the outer walls at the periphery of my senses. It doesn't take more than 20 minutes to find my first notable soul. Okay, well it's not ours, but Galdra's definitely around, I say. We're gonna want to stay the fuck away from her. Well, you are, Penelope corrects. I work with her every few days. You do? She snorts. Vita, did no one mention that I'm a first lady now? We're both council women. No shit? I ask, raising my eyebrows. Wow, congratulations. That was a major goal for you, right? How'd you pull that off? Oh, nothing fancy, she dismisses in that way, which means it's very fancy. I just single-handedly won the Second Volca-Sigulda War by slaughtering 12,000 men with a plague cocktail. I let out an appreciative whistle. Wow, I acknowledge. That sounds like a fun time. Just hearing about it makes me hungry. She laughs, and I suddenly pick up on another interesting soul in range. Oh hey, Lark is here too, I say. Did I ever mention I spared that little Vrathitso? You did not, Penelope accuses. But I figured that out when I became her officially assigned biomancer. She's a Templar trainee now. I do a double take. I'm sorry, what? I ask. Seriously? Seriously, Penelope nods. It's hilarious. The Templars are training a soul-eating monster from Hive Rock, I repeat, dumbfounded. And I get imprisoned? That's such fucking bullshit. It seems she ended up rather devout, Penelope shrugs. And she's happy to do whatever she's told, more or less. I imagine that's why they like her. I snort. It sounds like you like her, I say. Oh, I absolutely do, Penelope agrees. Don't worry, I'm working to slowly turn her against them. But even without that, it's wonderful having a live Vrathitso to experiment on. They are absolutely incredible creatures. Well, I'm glad it's working out for you, I guess, I grunt. That ungrateful little shit better not come after me, though. Bah, she's a sweetheart, Penelope dismisses. You may as well be afraid of getting attacked by Bentley. We laugh at that, and since we're alone I lean in to give her another hug as well. From there, our trip around Skyhope is mostly uneventful. We chat about a few other familiar souls, but as I expected, ours isn't here. One last important stop for the day, then, Penelope says as we return to the warehouse. We've got to go visit your family. Fuck yeah. I agree. But I assume we're not just going to walk in the front door looking like this? Certainly not, Penelope chides. We're going to teleport into their secret basement looking like this. So we do. 15 minutes of casting and one disorienting change of location later, we appear in a cellar, a collection of beautifully familiar souls above us. It's pitch black in here, but I waste no time casting a simple light spell, locating the hatch, and tossing it open. Guess WHO, motherfuckers. I shout, scaring the shit out of everyone in the house. It's immensely satisfying. What I don't expect is a wooden sword to suddenly swing towards my head, but I duck it without trouble, grinning wildly. Shit, is that Norman? Norman just took a swing at me. Wow, he got so fucking tall. Ronnie. Basra. Katie. Norman. Raphael. Jari. Doodle. Larkin. Sylvie. They're here. That's everyone except for Sonia and Jared, though I think I sense them a ways down the street, walking this way with Rowan. It's hard to tell, because holy dang so many of them grew so much. In height and stuff, sure, but also in soul. Some of them have usable talents. To that end, something stirs inside Norman and with an explosive jerk his swing swaps direction, rushing back towards my head when he should still be caught well within the backswing. Neat. I catch the dull practice blade with one hand anyway, gleefully drinking in the look of raw terror on his face. Why is he so freaked out? He has a danger sense now. That's not a guess, I chide playfully. Basra. Norman calls. Basra, help. My dull-eyed little sister pokes her head into the room, a nonplussed look on her face. Bro, she grunts. There's only one person we know who's that freaky and that short. I stiffen, dropping the blade as I whirl on Basra. Hey. I protest. I'm not that short. I grew 2 whole inches, I think. So now I'm. Penelope, how tall am I? 5 foot even, she calls up. 5 foot even. I declare proudly. Basra snorts, walks right up to me, and then has the fucking audacity to put her elbow on my head and lean on me. 5 foot even, she grunts. That's cool. What? I protest. How? How did you get this tall? You're like 13. I'm 14, and I got tall because of the inherent unfairness of life, Basra answers. Deal with it. Also welcome home and stuff. Vita? Norman realizes, finally catching up with the conversation. You nearly gave me a heart attack. Vita. A half-dozen other kids parrot, and soon I'm swarmed with hugs. Look at you all. You all got so big and strong. I coo. Have you been okay? What all happened while I was gone? And so I start getting their stories, hearing how Capita teleported them to safety during the perception event, how Basra and Norman are training to be hunters, which I'm not sure how I feel about, to be honest, and how they and all the younger kids have been going to school. School. Like that thing for rich people. They have tutors. Rowan soon walks inside with the other 2 kids and the second round of hugs begins. Apparently part of the reason we can afford tutors for the kids is because he works as one. He teaches chiromancy to rich people now, and also gets contracts from the army and the Templars to help train people against illusory threats. That's so cool. I squeal, squeezing him hard enough for him to start making strained noises. Rowan, this place is so nice. I figured Penelope was just bankrolling you. Well, I kind of am, since your mother works for me, Penelope comments, looking up from a currently shirtless Ronnie that she happens to be working on. But she certainly earns it. Where is she, anyway? I ask. Probably catching up on the dozens of things she was ostensibly busy doing while she was actually out saving you, Rowan answers, rustling my hair. She dropped by to give everyone a heads up you'd be back and ran off. Though Norman just conveniently forgot about that and decided to try to brain you with a stick, Basra drawls. Hey. Norman yelps. I didn't expect it, okay? Hey, it's fine, I got to see your cool sword move, I dismiss, waving him off. It's not like it would have hurt. Oh? Basra deadpans. I think that sounds like a challenge, Norman. I think it does, he agrees. Please don't beat up your big sister, she's experimentally relevant, Penelope calls. Also, I love her. Is she really my big sister? Basra asks. Anyway Vita, what have you been up to? Rowan asks. You've got to give us your side of the story. So, I tell them. I talk about heading out to help people in the perception event, getting cornered by Braum the Ubiquitous and fighting him off, getting captured and waking up in restraints. I tell them about jail, about my decision to bide my time, about the beatings I endured and the hypocrisy of our nation's so-called protectors. I told the story of freeing ours, of killing the High Templar, of liberating the prison and of escaping Braum and Cassia again. But right when I'm about to talk about meeting up with Penelope again, she stops me, mind whirling. Wait. You never told me about this entourage of followers you left in the forest. I thought it was just you, Lynn, and the revenants. Oh, nope, I clarify. Like I said, Jaleesa was the only good one, so it felt wrong not to keep her alive. And then she convinced me to keep 3 other Templars we found alive as well. She gives me that you fucked up in some political way you'll never understand look. And you just left them. Penelope presses urgently. They're still in the forest, alongside the Templar Alliance serving staff, unsupervised? Well, not unsupervised, no, I protest. I have a handful of revenants, some of them crazy strong, not to mention Aldrix. And, you know, like hundreds of dregs. Besides, the 3 extra Templars are collared, the serving staff are all talentless, and Jaleesa's only real talent is getting along with people. They're not going anywhere. Penelope pinches the bridge of her nose. Vita, we need to go back, she insists. Now. What? I blink in surprise. Why? Because you took a ragtag, disparate collection of shaky alliances bound only by fear of you, and left them alone with the only person all of them like. You handed that woman a coup on a silver platter. Oh. You wouldn't mind teleporting us again, would you? I ask. Penelope sighs. I'm already casting it.